Happy Thursday and welcome to another edition of Husker Online Headlines. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple. We're about to travel. We're about to pack. That means we all got to worry if Steve Sipple is going to remember his luggage.
Yeah.
I'm already researching the Walmarts and Targets just in case we have to make a pit stop for you, Sip.
Yeah, I could sense this morning when we were talking about the trip that you were a little concerned about my early morning and if I was going to be ready to go. John, I will say this, I'm not packed yet.
Well, you were considering doing the first hour of your radio show till 7, and our flight leaves at 8. I mean, this is not a private flight here. This is a commercial airline. I mean, I was like, knowing you like I know you, you're going to cut it pretty tight there to the airport.
You're right. So no show, no go on this show. I'll be ready to go, Sean.
Well,
Sean, I'm looking forward to this game. I'm looking forward to the trip. We're going to eat steak on Friday night.
We're going to Prime 47 Steakhouse.
I know. Can I afford it? Can I afford it? That's the question.
Well, we'll make it work for you.
Okay.
You can get the chicken.
They do have chicken. I checked it out.
I'll have the chicken breast.
Right. For $55. Okay. I checked it out, Sean.
Well, I know one guy that's ready to go.
Yeah.
Is Tom Dienhart, and we're pleased to welcome in headline number 1. Let's talk to Tom Dienhart to zone in on this Purdue versus Nebraska matchup. Tom Dienhart from Gold and Black, the authority of Purdue football, longtime Big Ten expert as well. Tom, we're looking forward to coming to your town, baby.
Yes, West Lafayette is embracing for the invasion of Sean Callahan and Steve Sipple and the Big Red Nation, man. We got everything bolted down. We're ready to go. We're going to roll out the red carpet, guys.
Okay.
You know, I love you guys. Always good to see you. Always exciting when you're rolling into town here. Sounds like you're going to have a mighty fine meal. Yeah, don't get the chicken. Don't get the fish. You guys got to go for the market price. You know, lobster, surf and turf. And Sean's paying, didn't he, Steve?
Yeah, I'm getting this one.
Oh, okay. Well, that changes everything. All right, I'm looking forward to Tom, there's a Steak and Shake right across the street that I was actually considering.
That's more my speed.
That's your kind of steakhouse. Well, let's talk ball as.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Sean.
But Tom, as we get into this game, give us a temperature check on this Purdue Boilermaker team. You guys played at Oregon State, didn't get back to West Lafayette till 6:30 in the morning on Sunday.
Wow.
Another tough loss after the Notre Dame one a couple of weeks before that. What is your read on this team heading into this crucial game against Nebraska?
A temperature check.
Yes.
It's probably a rectal thermometer for Purdue, right? It's been tough, our message boards are ablaze. People are wondering what is going on. The Notre Dame game left everybody aghast, guys. 66-7. You talk about stupefying. There's no other way to describe what happened that Saturday afternoon. So much was on the line for Purdue, a great chance to make a statement about where the program was at. Of course, not only didn't they win, they got clobbered. And you know what's even worst of all? It looks like they weren't even competitive. The game looked like it was over in the first quarter. And I'm going to say this, too, fellas. As bad as that was, last weekend at Oregon State, 38-21 was probably worse. The score wasn't as bad, but we all were waiting for a response, right? How was Purdue going to respond? Were they going to get things buttoned up? Were details going to be taken care of? Were they going to be more competitive? And honestly, they really didn't look that much better against an Oregon State team, guys, that was gutted by the portal last year. That's head coach, its alum, its famous quarterback ditched it for Michigan State. And that team pretty much ran Purdue off the field, too. So I don't know what to tell you what's going to happen Saturday. Nebraska's favored by 9 points. I have no idea what Purdue team's going to come out. But, guys, it's condition critical, DEFCON 5. It's just an inferno right here in West Lafayette trying to figure things out. And they got to get something figured out over there and get this team back on track.
Tom Dienhart. Tom Dienhart's been covering sports for decades. Tom, where's the disconnect? I know that's a hard question. Ryan Walters is in his second year as Purdue's head coach. I thought right away it was a questionable hire because of his lack of experience as a head coach. No experience as a head coach. But where is this disconnect? What's happened?
Yeah, it's funny. Maybe it was an indictment on me, but when we were doing that coaching search after Braum left, we all put our hot boards together, right?
Uh-huh.
He was never even on our hot board. I had one person tell me that they had talked to him.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know the degree of the depth of that, but I was surprised, like everybody, that he was the choice. I don't think this is a job you can learn on in the Big Ten or at Purdue, especially. A defensive head coach, too, a guy from the defensive side of the ball at Purdue. We have to be innovative, and that's the cradle of quarterbacks, if you will. And I think Ryan's smart. Maybe one day he will be a good head coach, and maybe he'll turn this around, guys. Maybe he will. I think one of the issues, I kind of wonder how good the staff is overall, too. Still, it's a very young staff. There's not one guy on it that's ever been a head coach. And if it was me, I would have hired some old warhorse guy who was a head coach to be my right hand. I'd want that guy in the booth or right next to me on game days to help walk me through things, scenarios, how to run a team, how to deal with adversity. None of that's here right now. So, and again, just the offense has been the bigger disappointment of all, even more so than the defense, guys. I thought the offense was going to be the strength of the team this year, and it has not been. There's really no innovation. There's no counterpunch. And we've seen Hudson Card sort of struggle and regress a little bit too.
If Purdue beats Nebraska, what is their recipe to doing it? From you've watched the corner, you got to watch the game on Friday, so you got a feel for Nebraska too. Obviously, a great feel for Purdue. How do you think the Boilermakers attack the Huskers?
I think they've got to offensively get that run going. You know, they have been able to run the ball pretty well. Again, they really had their success against Indiana State and Oregon State, but still, they even going back to last year, guys, the last 3 games of the year, they averaged close to 280 yards rushing a game, I think. So Devin Mockabee's good. Reggie Love from Illinois is a good back. They got their line's better, I think. It's bigger, it's more physical, it's deeper. They can get a push there. So if they can run, and like Illinois did, keep the ball away from Nebraska. Sean and I talked this week, too, about the ball control Illinois had. They wore down the Illinois defense. Purdue's going to have to be able to do that. If they can do that, maybe that sets up some passes for Hudson Card. And one other thing, guys, they've got to do better on third down. I think they're the worst team in the Big Ten on third down conversion. And defensively, guys, they're one of 2 teams in America without a takeaway this year. That's got to change if they want to win Saturday. And they've got to learn how to set the edge. Teams are running wild on Purdue. The last 2 opponents have ran for over 300 yards. That's got to make Nebraska salivate. That's got to make Matt Rule smile like a Cheshire cat. So, man, I tell you what, you look at those sidelines, and you guys are going to have a big schematic advantage from a coaching staff standpoint. And Matt Rule's a smart guy, and I kind of wonder what he's going to come up with. I wonder what he's seeing on film watching this Purdue team.
Well, one thing he's seeing is number 4 on Purdue's defense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's enough to get Nebraska's attention. That's Kydron Jenkins. Is that how you pronounce his first name? He had 4.5 tackles for loss against Nebraska last year. 1 game, 4.5 tackles for loss. Sean thought he was one of the better players he saw. I would say the same thing. What do you anticipate? I mean, what do you anticipate from him?
He had a touchdown last year against you guys too.
Yes, he did.
It's like a scoop on a score. You know what? He's an inside linebacker now.
Oh.
And some people kind of think that's a dubious decision that was made by the staff. They took him off the edge, made him an inside linebacker. He was up for it because the thinking is if he's going to play in the NFL, he's 6'1", 260 pounds. He's not going to be a defensive end in the NFL. If he's going to play at that level, it's going to have to be on 2 feet as a linebacker. So he was okay with it. He's been solid, guys. I don't think he's got the speed to be an inside linebacker to run sideline to sideline. If the game's in the box, he's good. He checks everything you want in a football player. I mean, he's the ultimate warrior. But I think this maybe this Saturday, guys, maybe you will see him on the edge a little bit more.
Okay.
I think there's been some attrition up front at rush end. I think they know what they're missing in Jenkins not being off the edge. You guys saw it last year on Lincoln. He's a special player off the edge. So maybe we'll see number 4 or maybe more at rush end. Yanni Karlaftis being the number 1 inside linebacker then. Of course, George Karlaftis' younger brother.
Okay.
So you're right, guys. He's special. But this is the defense that's had a lot of sloppy tackling. And another guy, well, Jenkins has been pretty good this year, guys. Number 31, Dylan Thieneman, the freshman All-American last year, has really struggled. He's looked bad angles, missed a lot of tackles.
Tom, I'm curious. Nebraska's got a great freshman, obviously Dylan Raiola. We know all about him here. What's been the chatter about Nebraska's freshman quarterback out in West Lafayette this week?
Yeah, very impressed. We talked to Ryan Walters and Kevin Kane, the defensive coordinator. We've heard about Raiola for a couple of years, and he looks like he's going to live up to the hype, right? You guys have somebody very special there, and the ability to throw deep with accuracy. And also the calm, for a guy so young to have that type of presence and not to be flummoxed and to maintain your cool and your calm. That's maybe the most impressive thing at all. I think despite all that, guys, Purdue's defense is going to come after him. I think you have to come after him. That's the MO of this defense. They're going to take chances, high risk, high reward.
Okay.
They're going to blitz. They're going to leave their corners in man coverage a lot, and come after this guy. They do it with about everybody. So especially a freshman quarterback, I think they first of all they got to commit to stopping the run, right, and then try to get after Raiola. And again, like I said, try to get their first takeaway of the year, for crying out loud.
Risky. I mean, that's risky. Now, what
risky.
I wonder too, the game I've seen is listed as a sellout. What kind of scene do you expect there, Tom?
It's homecoming, so it's a typical homecoming. I bet there'll be a lot of red in the stands, though, guys. My feeling is I bet a lot of fans have sold their tickets, even though it is homecoming. And I think, like I said, we'll see a decent amount of red. Purdue's had good crowds the last 2 years, despite being 4-8 last year and 1-2 this year. They got Oregon on a Friday night. That's probably going to sell out.
Mm-hmm.
The Northwestern game is supposed to be close to sell out, and they got Penn State coming here still too. So Ryan Walters has been sure to acknowledge that the fans still showing up, and they're going to show up again. Like I said, Nebraska's Nebraska. It's a brand name, great tradition, great fan base is going to follow it. So it is sold out already, guys. And high noon kickoff Eastern time for people in West Lafayette, and they're all just hoping that Purdue, maybe doesn't win, but for crying out loud, at least be competitive and keep this game deep into the fourth quarter.
Tom, I know one person that's going to get fired this year at Purdue, the guy that made this schedule.
I know. I tell you what, it's crazy. Isn't it?
Who the heck put that schedule is just ridiculous.
At Ohio State too. They play the three best teams in the Big Ten.
You guys only have 6 home games.
I know. That's Purdue, man. That's Purdue, Sean. It's crazy. It's been like this for generations. We don't understand it. Ryan Walters, I know. If you asked him, if you gave him true serum, he doesn't like it. What coach would like it?
It's pretty hard. I mean, that's why what Brom accomplished there, you really have to tip your Brom had it figured out at Purdue.
Mm-hmm. He had his problems. No coach is perfect, but I think Jeff on most Saturdays was the smartest coach on the field.
Yeah.
A great offensive mind. No nonsense. He's not going to suffer fools. He's not going to hug you and tell you he loves you. He wants you to go out and perform. As I say, don't tell me about the labor, just show me the baby. And he was tough, man. He's a tough guy too. And again, I know, he had, everybody's got people, not everybody's going to like you. And right. I eventually got along well with Jeff Brom, respected him. And a lot of, it's funny how things happen on the message boards. Now everybody's so nostalgic for Jeff Brom already again. When he was here, they were all ripping something about him. Now everything in the past is always great. You know how that goes, guys.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look at Purdue. You look at them, Tom. The last 3 seasons have been good, right?
Well, the 2022 season was the year they went to the Big Ten title game.
Right.
And in 21, they beat Tennessee in the Music City Bowl. It was a fun, wild game with Aiden O'Connell. But last year was 4-8.
Okay, last year they struggled.
I'll tell you one thing they struggle with is that they can't contain the quarterback run. Now, you guys think your backup quarterback's going to play it all?
That's
Kid can run.
I think it's a safe assumption we'll see Heinrich Harburg in this game. I think it's a safe assumption, whatever that package consists of. Is it 3 plays? Is it 10 plays?
Yeah, that's the question.
That's how deep do they carry that package is probably the question.
I'd use them because Purdue has really struggled. They still haven't proven, even going back to the Syracuse game last year, Garrett Schrader ran. They made Garrett Schrader look like, a real dated reference here for you guys. Vince Evans. But again, Oregon State came out and showed a new wrinkle. They had an option, guys, and Purdue was just totally clueless. Couldn't stop the option. You get to the edge, it'll be 2 Oregon State guys and 1 Purdue guy. it was, again, I don't know. I've said enough, and fans have seen enough, and they want adjustments made, and it's called coaching. It's called coaching.
Mm-hmm.
It's called coaching. Figuring out how to make things work, figuring out how to make things stop. How about trying to find a couple mismatches on offense for yourself too, right? And we just didn't seem like we've seen all of that.
Well, you'll be dealing with Matt Painter soon enough, okay?
Well, hey, people, they just started practice this week, guys. And a lot of people have already turned the page to basketball, and it's only September 26th.
Well, Tom, we appreciate the time. We'll see you at the game on Saturday. We're staying in Indy, so we won't see you Friday night. Homecoming took up all the rooms in your town.
Hey, real quick, Sip. There's a Walmart real close to campus if you need it too, buddy.
Yeah, if he forgets his underwear or his jeans or something, we might have to stop out there and get some new clothes for Sipple.
Maybe even a notebook. Maybe even a notebook.
I can drive him out there. We can get a cart and get a whole new wardrobe for him.
Okay, Tom.
All right.
We'll see you in the press box. I'll buy lunch.
Yeah, fellas.
Thank you again to Tom Dienhart from Golden Black for joining us. Before we get into that discussion, HuskerOnline headlines brought to you by Mando. If you're not familiar with Mando, these are premium men's products, deodorants, body creams, body washes, cleansing bars, you name it. They have all the great products that are dermatologist recommended and help you stay fresh and smelling clean. That's the most important thing. And we've got a great special for our HuskerOnline headlines listeners here. Check them out at mando.com, and we're going to hook you up with the starter pack. For all of our new customers, you'll get a solid stick of deodorant, cream tube deodorant, plus 2 free products of your choice, like the body wash or the deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And we're going to give you a discount code to use. And it's already discounted when you get the starter pack. This will take another $5 off, which brings it down to 40% off what it would cost to buy these items separately. Just go to shopmando.com. Use the promo code Husker. That's promo code Husker at shopmando.com to get hooked up with the Mando starter pack. Thank you to Mando for sponsoring us here on Husker Online Headlines. But let's get into Tom Dienhart, because not a real optimistic view of the Boilermakers as they head into this game on Saturday.
Well, you asked him to take the temperature of the Purdue fan.
He gave us a rectal temperature,
and he said you'll need a. I hesitate to repeat it, but he said you'll need a rectal thermometer. Wasn't expecting that. Tom is very colorful. You mentioned the schedule. If you look at Purdue's schedule, that just shouts 2-10.
They might have a harder schedule than the Colts right now.
the Indianapolis Colts. That shouts 2-10 if they can beat Northwestern, right? That might shout 1-11, which might shout quick coaching change. $9 million buyout for Ryan Walters. I don't know. I mean, that's trouble. That schedule's trouble.
What scares me about the Big Ten, and there are no real weak links.
Thank you.
Like Michigan State looks good for a team with a new coach.
Yeah, pretty good.
Washington looks good for a team that's gone through a coaching change transition. Indiana obviously looks good. Illinois has improved.
Oh, yeah.
Rutgers is
good.
And there are no freebies.
No, I'm glad, and I appreciate you saying that. And you've often referenced, and you're exactly right. There's a lot of money in the league now. The coaching staffs are well paid. They get experience.
Players are well paid.
Players are well paid. They get experienced coaches. But you heard Tom say Purdue is sort of an outlier in that way. They don't have an experienced coaching staff. They have a former defensive coordinator at Illinois as their head coach, who you remember, Sean, you remember me questioning that hire. You and Robin were kind of taken aback by how critical I was of that hire. And he can't control the schedule. But they're not going to win 3 games, Sean. They're just not. They're not. They don't have the horses. And I don't think they have the coaches either.
Yeah, it will be interesting. He'd be owed $9 million if they fired him after 2 years.
Do you remember how taken aback you and Robin were? Because I was like, what is this?
But I tend to agree with you. If they go 2-10 in a year 2, that's not good.
No, I don't know what the AD's line of thinking is. I think you do have to if you're being fair, have to take into account the nature of that schedule, which is, like you said, it's about as hard as I've ever seen, right? That's about as hard as I've ever seen.
Yeah, like you go to Oregon State for a road game, and you don't get home till Sunday at 6:30 in the morning.
It's ridiculous.
And then you play at 11 a.m. this week. So they lost, in essence, a day of body recovery. They did not get a night's rest at home on Saturday, and they're going to come back and play early against Nebraska.
They will lean hard on the run game, and as Tom pointed out, that's what they're going to do. Now, Sean, all of this conversation, and I still think this is going to be a hard game for Nebraska.
Oh, no question. All of them are hard. I think all the games are hard games.
Now, there's a mind out there. This is a walkover for Nebraska. I can't go there because of Maccabee, who Tom talked about, and Reggie Love, and a pretty good offensive line. And you know what Purdue's going to do. They're going to try to exploit Nebraska, this sort of poor tackling that we've seen.
Personnel them.
Yeah, personnel them. And now I will say this. They don't have, Purdue does not have horses at receiver. They have a good tight end. Hudson Card the last two games has been under 50% completion percentage, like 42 and 48. I mean, they just don't throw the ball very well. So they'll be pretty one-dimensional. I would like to say Nebraska should be okay, but I just don't say it with a ton of confidence right now. What I've seen from the defense the last 2 weeks.
And a couple things that we learned from Matt Rule on Thursday.
What's that?
Gunnar Gatula will start at left tackle. Matt Rule announced that after practice today. Didn't really get into any details about Micah Mazuka and what the plan is there for him. Tommy Hill, no answer there, but
no answer there.
If he'll play or not.
What do you expect?
I kind of think he'll play.
Tommy Hill.
Yeah.
Okay. What about Mazuka?
I think he'll play too.
Okay. Now back to the interview with Tom Dienhart. Fabulous, by the way. Veteran, knows so much. He's so well versed and has great historical perspective. You wonder about Kydron Jenkins if they will actually move him to the edge more. He's playing inside linebacker. Will they move him?
But the pressure that actually affects Raiola the most has come up the middle.
Oh, good point.
Because Raiola feels the edge better and he steps up.
Mm-hmm.
Up the middle, it's like a truck driving straight at you.
But wouldn't you, as a head coach, Ryan Walters, a defensive-minded head coach, be tempted to stick number 4
on Gatula?
Wouldn't you be tempted?
Yes,
I would too. Yeah.
And then Nebraska's backs have missed some protections too.
They did. Missed a big one, number 3 for Illinois, stunted in overtime, missed assignment, and it really affected the game big time.
Yeah, the blitz pickup by the back is an underrated piece.
Oh, it's huge.
And if you notice when Nebraska blitzes, more often than not, the back picks it up.
Yeah.
And that's the difference a lot of times is the back.
Yep. 100%.
You know, if they diagnose your blitz and pick you up, it's hard to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, that's a multi-pronged discussion because you could have a guy like Dante Dowdell, a big back like Gabe Irvin, who should be effective as a blocker, but he has to know where it's coming from, and that's part of the trick.
If you're only bringing 5, I mean, you'll see like the Chiefs bring like big blitzes, but they have the pros on the back end that can execute better.
Right,
not going to get burnt.
Right, you got to know where it's coming from.
But you'll see like Spagnuolo on the Chiefs games, he'll bring 7 on a huge down, but their back end guys can execute. You know,
7.
They don't let stuff get by them because they know their keys and reads. And but like the dialing it up with the pressure, we've seen Tony. The pressure has not been great for Nebraska as far as the blitzes go.
No, it hasn't. And on the other end, again, from Tom was fabulous because we keep referencing it. He said Purdue will bring heat on Dylan. So on the other end, now shift your thinking.
And Matt Rule said everybody should. I would do it too.
Right. Rule, I wonder. I heard him say that, and I just thought immediately that's gamesmanship because he knows how well prepared Dylan is, and that's all about hot reads, right? That's all about getting the ball out. It's all about knowing where to go with the ball. And one thing you know about number 15 is he will know where to go. He won't be caught off guard very often. I say that with great confidence about Dylan. He'll be dialed in. He'll know his hot read. And my guess, I mean, Sean, it's high risk for a defense. And with Nebraska, think about it, Sean. If you think about this, blitz. I bet Matt was doing that for a reason. Because think about what Nebraska has. Say it's a hot read to Ja'Cory Barney. Defense is vulnerable. He's going for a long time.
Lloyd.
Jalen Lloyd, Isaiah Nayor. Get those guys as hot reads and watch what happens.
If you win the toss and you're Nebraska,
What
are you
do?
deferring or taking the ball?
You make these decisions. I'm not a head coach. So what do you do?
Probably defer.
Really?
Because I am expecting some wind in this game and possible wetness from the hurricane, how it hits landfall.
So you want your defense out there first?
Yeah, and then control your decision with the wind.
Okay. All right. I like that idea, if only because I want to send my defense out there and let them handle. I mean, come on, guys. Let's see what you got.
The weather is so unpredictable for this game because you don't know how this hurricane is going to hit landfall and what it does.
You worry about the hurricane?
Well, it's going to get up that direct. I mean, they're going to get rain. They're calling for chances of rain on Saturday.
Okay, interesting.
So, and Matt Rule on his radio show said they're preparing for winds too.
Okay.
So there are some other X factors in this game.
Could be a heavy run game. Could be a fast game. Could be a quick
Dylan
game.
has the arm strength, though, to throw it through.
He does. Yeah. Wow. The rain and wind part of that story is really interesting. Both teams sort of benefit because they both can run.
And it's hard. I mean, doing the old checking the weather on your iPhone, like I think it's much more complex, just not knowing how this hurricane is going to hit landfall and what it does. I mean, it could do nothing. It could but it could downpour. It could cause a lot of issues.
I want to make sure I'm getting this right. I think it doesn't. I don't know that it favors either team that much, does it?
It's grass too.
Does it favor either team much?
If it limits Nebraska's throwing, I would say that helps Purdue.
Okay, but Nebraska can run. Purdue's a very vulnerable.
You say Nebraska can run. They haven't had a 100-yard back.
But Purdue's very vulnerable against the run. They're very
Well,
vulnerable.
and if it is a rain, wet game, that's where maybe Harburg would factor in.
Sean, you came at me. I'm going to have to come back at you. Purdue has given up 700 rushing yards in the last 2 weeks.
With mobile quarterbacks running option plays and zone reads.
The Oregon State guy ran for 66. Okay, so their running backs got 240. I mean, no.
But yeah, zone reads and pull-out plays. I mean, there was some magician.
You got to be able to run against a team that's given up.
Nebraska's run game, though, is easier to defend.
For sure.
It's a straight stick your hand out handoff game. It's not an exotic ball.
Can't they do a little bit more? Can't you?
That's where you wonder, like, could you see a Harburg in a little bit here more?
That or some pitches, or something.
So we'll see where that goes. All right. Before we take it to headline number 3, HuskerOnline Headlines brought to you by CHI Health. And football winning starts on the field. And it starts with knowing your opponent. For men, prostate cancer is one of the toughest. In fact, prostate cancer is still the #1 cause of death for men with cancer. Let's look at the stats. This year, nearly 300,000 men across the country will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, 2,000 right here in Nebraska. With a well-executed blitz, you can turn things around. This September, during Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, CHI Health is reminding men to stay on the offense with a strong strategy for early detection. It's been shown to improve treatment success and get more men over the goal line. Here's the game plan. Men over age 50 or older should consult with their health care provider when to begin your prostate cancer screenings. If you don't have a provider, go to chihealth.com to find a provider in a CHI Health clinic near you. Don't drop the ball, Husker Nation. Let's stay on offense and beat prostate cancer at its own game. Get started today at chihealth.com. Thank you to CHI Health for sponsoring us here on HuskerOnline Headlines. Okay, headline number 3, and I'm going to shift the gears now to athletic director Troy Dannon. He said a lot of things this week on his Tuesday radio show, but the thing that grabbed the most headlines and, what was he wrote a letter with the permission of the chancellor and the president to Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti, just saying, like, if schools have a preference to not host Friday night home games, we want it to be known that we don't want to do this. And, Iowa gets out of hosting Friday night games because they're a hospital on campus. And, when it's Black Friday, it's a little bit different because campus is empty, and Nebraska does the same thing on Black Friday. And, should the Black Friday game count as your hosted game when you host a Friday game, then Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, they don't host Friday games either.
Typically, yeah.
They haven't.
Oh, they haven't.
Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State have not hosted.
Okay,
now, Penn State and Ohio State have played on Friday before.
Okay.
Michigan played on a Friday 20-some years ago against Minnesota in the Metrodome.
but they don't host.
And they do it because of the logistics of their campus, the number of people involved. Generally, these Friday games aren't happening at the big cathedrals.
Well, Nebraska's a big cathedral. Now, it's a very interesting discussion because, first of all, it's very common sense. What if everybody in the Big Ten, what if every AD wrote a letter and said, we don't want to play Fridays?
And Nebraska's argument, though, is the downtown parking situation with the garages, the on-campus stadium with the parking involved, and the fact that you had to cancel classes. And what does the University of Nebraska exist for? To provide school and classes.
Well, but again, you can say that again about every Big Ten institution.
If they have an on-campus stadium, but Nebraska's is tucked in the heart of campus.
I would ask you this question. This is not a leading question. It's a question. Is there any Big Ten school that wants to play on Friday nights?
I don't know.
Wouldn't you doubt it? I mean, who embraces it?
My other question is, well, how was the letter greeted? Like, did Petiti say thanks?
Well, there's the only risk in writing the letter is that, and it's not a huge risk, but the risk is that the Big Ten will say, okay, that's wonderful, and in 2 years you're playing on Friday again, and people recall the letter and say, well, it must not have much power, right? It might make
on the Big
look
Ten
bad down the line.
They could also say, hey, 4.22 million.
Right.
You guys delivered the highest rated game on Fox for a Friday since a World Series baseball game. And if Nebraska, Illinois is outdrawing a Friday World Series baseball game, MLB's got some issues.
Yeah, the commissioner of MLB is a little red-faced, I would think, over that news. Yeah, it topped out at 5 million. There were 5 million people watching.
And the peak view, the rating, the registered final rating was 4.22, which was the third most viewed game of the weekend.
Right. So the Big Ten would say you're a draw, Nebraska. I mean,
you outdrew Ohio State, who played on Big Noon kickoff.
Yeah, and I understand where Troy Dannon's coming from completely. I mean, they didn't have classes. Well, now here's what you wonder, Sean. How he must have heard from some Troy must have heard from some influential people on campus, right? Wouldn't you think?
Just like. The academia side,
yes,
just having to cancel
classes,
it is a big deal,
right? And there's some influential people that probably didn't like it. There's probably maybe influential people in the community that voiced some opposition to it, and he felt compelled to act. That's my guess. I heard Troy speak in Omaha recently, and he said Michigan has the hammer. I mean, they just won a national title. They can swing that hammer much more easily than Nebraska can in its current state as a program.
Their value, though, is still on Saturday. Like
Nebraska?
No, Michigan.
Michigan.
Like, and here's the ratings here. I mean, Michigan, USC, most viewed game of the weekend. Oklahoma, Tennessee, second. Illinois, Nebraska, third. Nebraska outdrew Ohio State. They outdrew Deion Sanders. They outdrew LSU, UCLA.
Wow.
So, to me, this is how Fox would ever fire back. Like, guys, look what you just did.
Well, and you could say, Nebraska, don't you like that limelight? That you're in it. You're the game.
No, and I kind of go back and forth because I felt like everyone enjoyed it.
Right.
I mean,
I know you like it.
Well,
don't you?
I don't want to get myself. I thought people embraced it at a high level.
Okay.
Now the tailgating scene got off to a later start than the normal Saturday. But boy, it was rocking.
Right. It was, yeah. We probably need to talk to Troy. He'll be at the Purdue game. I might try to corner him and see what he says, I'd like to know.
The other thing Troy Dannon said that just blew my mind was they've gone to cashless concessions at Memorial Stadium. And the past year, Nebraska averaged $375,000 in cash sales when they didn't take credit cards.
Right.
Going to cashless, they've been doing $900,000 a game. So there's over $500,000 more dollars per game. And I've heard a lot of compelling arguments why that could be the case.
What are they?
Number one, there's been more butts in the seat. Like, yes, the sold number is the sold number, but the scan number has been significantly better for these first four games.
Great crowds.
And so if you're getting 10 to 15,000 more scan tickets every game than maybe you were a year ago,
it's money.
That's a lot of people. And these night games, people are hungry. It's hot. So there's a lot of variable factors there, but I do think credit cards are more cleaner, and this proves that point. As far as when you have a bunch of loose dollar bills floating around, it's pretty easy for a few to go missing.
Cleaner. It's a nice euphemism, Sean.
And you can still tip the Runza guys, by the way. The kids that sell the Runzas and the hot dogs, when you tap your card on, there is a tip option on there.
Yep. That is really interesting.
Because I think if you didn't offer a tip option for those kids, I mean, that was kind of part of the allure of doing that job. You got some tips. And I bet you those kids make more tips now than they did with cash. Because, you know, when you did cash, you had to have cash, and you had to have the right amount of bills. But they give you an option to do a percentage or a dollar or whatever you want to do. So I would imagine the Runza kids and the hot dog kids make more tips too.
Wow. Well, it's interesting stuff, Sean.
You're not interested, are you?
Oh, I mean, to a certain extent.
The number of dollars though blew me away that they've done.
It's real money. And when you're looking, and when you're any athletic department in the country right now, and you're trying to find more revenue streams because you got to pay players, $500,000 on a given night is it's a nice
big boost.
Yeah, it is.
So what is that 900,000 going to be when alcohol sales are added to the mix?
Yeah, which is happening.
I mean, are we talking $2-3 million a game? Yeah,
that's going to happen, by the way. I wouldn't be surprised if it's happening next season.
And again, the number I was told during the Garth Brooks concert, I believe it was 128,000 25-ounce cans were sold. So each can is like 2 beers. So essentially 260,000 cans of beer, if you're doing 12-ounce cans, were sold for Garth Brooks.
And that's and again, I think, to me, the beer sales story is overblown in that it's not going to change anybody's life. I mean, it should happen, right? It won't change anybody's life either way.
I just think the stadium needs to be built better to handle it.
Well, they're apparently going to do that.
I mean, you're just the seating. I mean, there's not cup holders. There's not. I mean,
right.
There's just a lot of things that you don't have a lot of margin for error when you get to your seat.
You're talking about infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, you can barely fit in your seat, let alone manage a 25-ounce beer.
It's fun you bring this up because I just heard from a fan today who was really adamant. He wanted to talk about it, how that South Stadium experience is so hard. I mean, he's 72. He's 72. He's in good shape. He went with a friend who's 82 who's in good shape, but it was still, now you have all these plastic containers laying around. You have to step through them. It really sounds hard in South Stadium. What is your analogy for South Stadium?
It's the public golf course of Memorial Stadium, or the public pool. It's and
all that entails.
And the East and the West are kind of the privates,
right?
And the North is a step up,
right?
I mean, the North at least has access to the concourse.
Yeah, the South you don't have,
but the South is like the public. It's like the Omaha public pool. I mean, it's
not a lot of comfort.
No,
not a lot of comfort,
and you can't really bring much with you. I sat in the South row 8.
You're not being disparaging.
No, I sat in row 88.
Row 88.
My dad used to say, "This is where all the people from South Omaha sit. We sit up here."
Beautiful.
I remember they used to bring. They didn't do the bottled pop back then. It was cups, and they had these
That's right.
They had these plastic saran wrap things over the top, and you pulled it off when you got it to your chair. But a lot of times the ice would melt in those cups.
Right.
By the time it got up to your seats, it was a different time.
Yeah, different time.
But they were winning a lot of football games, so it all tastes good.
Better times, actually.
And they were winning a lot of games.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, everything. The seats weren't bad back then.
Right. The warm pop tastes good when you were going for 8-0.
We carried Coke products back then too.
Oh, that's much better, by the way. Dang it.
They've been Pepsi for a long time now, and that's all right.
All right, let's get back to ball here.
Let's get to headline number 4. Before we get to that, though, HuskerOnline headlines brought to you by Homefield. If you're not familiar with Homefield, premium athletic apparel. Volleyball season's underway, football season, basketball season right around the corner. You want to get some new Husker gear, some new swag, some unique stuff. You don't want to just wear the same polo shirt or quarter zip that everyone's wearing in the stadium. You kind of want something with a little bit more character to it, personality.
Yeah.
And Homefield has you. I mean, look at that. The Orange Bowl shirt.
That is unbelievable. Look at that Orange Bowl guy.
Bug eaters. And, the premium quality gear, throwback stuff, vintage items. They have everything you can imagine. Check them out. Go to Homefield Apparel and check them out at their website. We've got a special here as well at homefieldapparel.com. We are going to give you 15% off your order by simply using the promo code Husker24. That's promo code Husker24 for 15% off at homefieldapparel.com. Thanks again to Homefield Apparel for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, staying on another subject here, I want to hit on this NIL madness that we're dealing with right now in college athletics. UNLV had their starting quarterback go 3-0, ranked, and he was supposed to get, and here's the tweet from Matthew Sluka, the quarterback from UNLV, announced he's leaving the team, says that he was promised $100,000 to transfer in the summertime to UNLV, has only received, I believe, $3,000.
$3,000 for a public appearance, I believe.
And that's it. Now, there was nothing in writing. He didn't have any kind of contract, anything signed.
Yeah, verbal agreement.
Just a verbal agreement from an assistant coach.
Who said, basically, from what I've read, is that, yeah, I think we can do that.
And here's the thing with NIL, assistant coaches aren't even supposed to negotiate numbers.
Right.
The collective does all that. So, look, UNLV lost their quarterback, Jaden Maeva, to USC. He was the preseason Mountain West Player of the Year going into the year. Right. Left to go to USC.
He's the backup at USC.
And he's the backup. He actually committed to Georgia, then switched his commit to USC. So they had a really good quarterback. They lost him. I can imagine this scramble in the summer. They didn't have a quarterback.
So they went to Holy Cross and got Sluka, as you covered, has led them to a 3-0 record. There's a couple ways to go with this discussion. The first way I would go is this. If he thinks he's going to go make a lot of money at a Power 4 school, I would counsel him to be careful with that. I've watched him play. I can't imagine him starting for a Power 4 school, any Power 4 school. Okay. He's a 44% passer. I watched him throw the ball. He doesn't throw it well. He does run it well. He's a good runner. But what's the market in Power 4 for running quarterbacks?
Yeah, it's not much. This is not Georgia Tech with Paul Johnston.
Right. That'd be, you know what? Now that you mentioned, Georgia Tech would probably be some sort of option for him, but that I can't think of many other schools that would be. So if he's thinking he's going to go make a bunch of money elsewhere, I'd be careful with that.
I side with UNLV in this right now. I just think the kid, he didn't have anything signed.
Right. Now, and the other part of this is, and at some level, I think we could help people. If it were my son, and he was going to UNLV, I would tell him, look, this isn't like going and taking a job at Peter Kiewit Construction or an Hertz or just Coca-Cola, some established entity. This is all very new, this NIL world in college football. It's very unrefined. It's imperfect. You may or may not get your money. Now at Nebraska, you're going to get it. At Georgia, you're going to get it.
You have a contract with everything in writing.
At Nebraska. But a lot of these places, it's sort of fly by night. And I would have counseled him, look, they said 100, don't expect it. Hope for it, demand it.
There's a lot of rob Peter to pay Paul operations, I think, where they're just moving things around.
Hope for it and even maybe demand it, but don't necessarily expect it. And maybe you're going to get some money and just take it. Take that. Like now, the other part of the story is what UNLV said or the collective for UNLV, which is, I think it's called Blue Stem, something along those lines. They said $3,000 per month for 4 months is what we agreed to. That wasn't enough. Again, if I was close to this quarterback, I'd say take that. And you're undefeated, and maybe you can get more money down there.
Well, and my thing too is you are going to have a chance to do so much more with your name and legacy if you got UNLV to the college football playoff and win the Mountain West. Now
it's over.
You literally were at battle with your platoon and quit on them.
Right. And now at this point, there's going to be people in our audience that take issue with us second guessing the young man, but that's the nature of the business. He wants to be a professional. He wants to be paid like a professional.
He's got a degree from Holy Cross.
He's going to be treated like a professional. And he's not. Yeah, he's not a kid really. So yeah, in this world, these players now subject themselves to grown men second guessing them, and that's what we're going to do. I think he made the wrong move, but I guarantee in that locker room, Sean, he's got a lot of support. I'm sure there's guys like us who say, really, you're turning your back on us. But my experience with this is, it's a different world now than it was when I grew up. I bet he has a lot of support in that locker room. You know the saying, you do you. Well, you do you, brother. It's fine. Good luck to you.
UNLV also on Thursday, it was announced that they're going to get $25 to $30 million in signing bonus to stay with the Mountain West. So
there's some money.
They're haggling over $100,000 when the institution just was announced that they're going to get 25 to 30 million as a signing bonus to not go to the Mountain West.
So they're going to have some money.
Can they pay that money? They can't pay. Like we're way out of bounds here with NIL because number one, an assistant coach should never be negotiating dollar figures.
Right.
And really the head coach, Barry Odom should not be talking about.
I don't think he is though.
Dollar figures either.
No,
it should only be between Sluka and this collective and the representatives. Like you can't have your coaches involved in dollar figure
but
discussions.
They are not quoted. Have you noticed that?
Right. They can't.
No, they can't.
So it is dicey. Then USC had their own with Bear Alexander and Rick Neuheisel, who I listen to all the time on the radio. He holds a golf tournament every year, and all these coaches play in it. Kirby Smart was in this tournament a year ago, right when Bear Alexander left Georgia to go to USC. Georgia was giving him $20,000 a month, and USC gave him $40,000 a month. So he got that kind of money to leave to go and play for USC. Well, now he got blown off the ball in Michigan, and his snaps were limited. He wasn't playing a lot of snaps in the game against Michigan. That him and his camp decided to pull the plug.
But I don't think it's for the same reason that Sluka did.
No, I think he's going to transfer though.
Right. But it's not well, I'm going to seek money elsewhere.
But man, is USC on the hook for $40,000 a month?
I wouldn't think so.
If he's redshirting.
I don't know.
I
don't know. They might be and they might not be. But I think the broader point is these players are leaving schools in the middle of the season. Broken system. And here's what it is, Sean. There's two parts of this that coexist, that can't coexist going forward, and that is NIL and unlimited transfer. One of those has to be removed. You can't have unlimited transfer and paying players at the same time without contracts, right? All of this points toward student athletes becoming employees with a collective bargaining agreement. That's where all this is going.
The other silly thing is to act like it's not pay for play.
I know, it's ridiculous.
I mean, come on.
Right. It's ridiculous.
And Shannon Terry from On3, he dubbed it perfectly what NIL is. It's roster value money.
Roster value money.
There's 100%. There's really not a lot of, true Caitlin Clark endorsement money.
No.
And like on Nebraska's team, like Nash Hutmacher does some commercials for like the companies. Ty Robinson's done some commercials, but you don't even necessarily see like Dylan Raiola doing like pub. And I think we learned like it's kind of a risk. Like look at Jeff Sims. He did a lot of high profile
with Runza.
Amigos.
I'm sorry. Amigos. That's right.
And Akers.
That proved to be very risky.
Yeah. And so if you're an organization, I mean, they named a combo meal after him.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Runza. Amigos. Risky. There is risk involved.
It led to a lot of the pick six combo or the.
Yeah, we're easy. We're in a very tumultuous time. These players leaving, though, like this UNLV quarterback story is pretty novel. It never happened. Where a player planted his flag in the ground, said, "You're not paying me, I'm leaving." That's the first time it's happened. So there'll probably be more time.
All right. Before we take it to Headline 5, Husker on the Headlines, brought to you by who, Stephen M. Sipple?
Well, Sean, Larson Motors. And we usually do this on Tuesdays, but we're doing it today on Thursday. If you're looking for a new vehicle, wow, Sean, what was your drive here like today? It was gorgeous, right? How would it be just to whip down the highway to Nebraska City?
Watching all the combines out in the fields working.
Yeah, watching harvest, maybe talking, maybe take your wife along, maybe not. If you're looking for a new vehicle, they'll go to Nebraska City. Larson Motors is what we're talking about. It's one of the Midwest's only dealerships with all the major brands in one location. Finding your new Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram never has been easier. So why not start your new experience today at LarsonMotorGroup.com? I will say it again, LarsonMotorGroup.com, or at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. Larson Motors, real people,
real deals.
Good job, Sean.
Okay, let's odds and ends here on the way out the door as we close it on the Big Ten here. Week 5 action. Washington at Rutgers. That has my attention because the Scarlet Knights have the chance to come into Lincoln undefeated.
Washington at Rutgers is a big one. Rutgers comes off of a win at Virginia Tech. Everybody was watching that game. Is Rutgers for real? Yes, they're for real.
And they host Washington. They're a 2.5-point favorite. Then Maryland is at Indiana, and the Hoosiers are a 7-point favorite.
Yeah. Now it's sort of interesting because without, all right, I'll just say without prepping a lot, that's Indiana's toughest game to date, I'm pretty sure. They went to UCLA. They did go to UCLA. UCLA's really down. I might still say this is Indiana's toughest game to date.
Because Loxley's a veteran head coach.
Yeah. Now, here's the deal, Sean. If Indiana, which has won every game convincingly, if they win this one by 15, 14 plus, whew,
you know what it kind of reminds me of? Remember when Mangino kind of just got Kansas going?
Good comparison.
And they were just blowing out all these bad teams. Yep. And you're like, oh, they're playing nobody.
Right.
But then they started beating all the conference teams.
Right. It's a really good comparison.
It reminds me of like that type of deal. And
Todd Reed. Where'd Mangino come from? I mean, just was a no-name, right?
Well, he was the right-hand man to Stoops and Snyder. And I mean,
he called plays. That's right.
He had a coordinator, but he got his opportunity at Canton. No one wanted the job, but he scheduled a really easy schedule like Indiana has right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they won all those games. And that's how Bill Snyder built Kansas State.
Yeah. Boy, people
remember how bad Bill Snyder's non-conference schedules were?
He took it to another level of ridiculous.
And people would press him every year at Big 12 media days, and he would just laugh at him.
Yeah. Kurt Cignetti is the coach at Indiana. And right now he's opening eyes. But again, Maryland, let's see now.
7-point spread for the Hoosiers. This one surprised me. Minnesota at Michigan. At home in Ann Arbor, Michigan is only a 9-point favorite. I would have put it at about 14. But it tells you that, I mean, how limited Michigan is right now at the quarterback position.
Yeah, they're limited offensively. I just haven't seen enough of Minnesota. Well, here's the thing. Iowa just hammered Minnesota along the ground in the last weekend. Caleb Johnson went over 200. Take Michigan to win by more than 9. Okay, we don't do the betting thing here, and I'm not.
Steve Sipple's lock of the week.
Yeah, this is Steve Sipple's lock of the week. Take Michigan all day on that. I'm serious.
All right, some guy just put his whole family's paycheck on that.
Well, I can't control that.
I'm also interested in Wisconsin at USC. USC is a 15.5-point favorite. What Wisconsin team shows up?
USC's a 15.5.
Yeah, USC's a 15.5-point favorite. What Wisconsin team shows up in the Coliseum? That's a CBS game.
Terrible matchup for Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a team largely devoid of speed. USC is fast, both sides of the ball, quick, fast. Love USC. I love you. I'm not going to do the gambling thing, but I love USC to cover. Love them.
What about now? Illinois is an 18-point dog in Happy Valley against Penn State at night.
Wow, what a line! What a crazy high line. Way too high. Illinois will make that a game.
Yeah, the 18 is a big number.
Crazy number.
Penn State hasn't really played to a level that would justify that number.
Not really. No, they haven't. Illinois, it's a night game. That's one thing to consider. Okay, it's a night game in Happy Valley, and you've seen that, right? It's not a whiteout game, though. Not a whiteout, but it's a night game. 6:30 start.
Brett Bielema kind of ruffled some Penn State feathers, saying that he's not really worried about the whiteout because they just played at Nebraska, and Nebraska was as tough of an atmosphere.
But it's not a whiteout.
No,
it's not a whiteout game.
But they said they wanted it to be a whiteout type environment.
Okay, it will be tough, but that line seems crazy high to me. Doesn't it?
18.
To you? You saw Illinois; they're pretty good.
I'd put it about I'd probably say 13.
I'd say 10 to get action on both sides. But I guess it hasn't come down. So, I mean, it's
Ohio State travels Michigan State. They're a 23.5 point favorite. Oregon is a 25.5 point road favorite at UCLA. It's
wow.
It could be I mean, if he doesn't get it going there, Deshaun Foster, and they really struggle at UCLA. I mean, he and Ryan Walters, I think today are the least equipped head coaches in this league. And I don't even know if it's close.
No, I don't think it is close. I don't. They're the least experienced.
Right.
Too.
I mean,
Deshaun Foster never been a head coach, running backs coach. I think it's a dangerous move for an AD in this league, not in every league, but in this league to hire young head coaches who've never been a head coach. It's dangerous because of the level of coaching in this league, which Nebraska saw last week with Brett Bielema and that staff. Illinois was extremely well prepared, outcoached Nebraska. Now that's saying something because Nebraska has a veteran head coach, an NFL coach, a former NFL coach, and a veteran offensive play caller. Now Tony White's not veteran. But he's been a Power 5 coordinator. So, but yeah, Illinois outcoached him. That's fact.
And that's sat on the mind of Matt Rule all week.
Sure it has.
And Matt Rule is really motivated for this week.
Oh yeah. This is an important week for Nebraska.
And we're heading out Friday to West Lafayette. So we'll have the HuskerOnline postgame live show. Probably a 4:30, 5 o'clock Central start time is my guess.
Okay.
Then we're leaving Indianapolis. We're staying in Chicago. So we're going to drive to Chicago. Then we fly out of Chicago home. So it's a little bit different itinerary that we've done before, but the 11 o'clock game makes it manageable.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll work out fine.
And if you're not a member of Husker Online, we've got a new promo we just dropped for our YouTube listeners only. We're going to give you $40 off an annual subscription. Use the promo code Husker40. That's promo code Husker40, and that's going to take $40 off your annual subscription for our YouTube and podcast listeners. Give us a try at HuskerOnline.com. Looking forward to a weekend at West Lafayette, Nebraska, Purdue. Husker Online postgame live to follow after that game. For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan signing off here for Husker Online Headlines.